Hey guys, it's Fallon, your friendly neighborhood librarian, back at it here with my very first book review. I'm going to try to do as non-spoilery a review as possible. If I do have to get into some spoilers, I'll try to save it to the end and then I'll give you a big heads up that it's going to be spoiler filled. So the book that I'm reviewing today is Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. Just like a heads up, this is my library copy. But I will probably buy my own copy of this book because A, this cover is outstanding and beautiful, and B, I gave this book 5 stars. Like it's I adored it. It's kind of the good summer kind of crime magic thriller that I didn't even know I needed. So I would say that Magic for Liars is, I think Tor described it as Jessica Jones meets The Magician. I'd also probably throw in Tana French in there. It's such an interesting, good mixture of genres. So let me go into this with the plot. Basically, is Ivy Gamble is a private investigator. She grew up in a family with her mom, her dad, and her twin sister Tabitha. Her twin sister got her Hogwarts letter basically and went off and learned magic and has become a teacher at a magic school. And when they were younger, Ivy's mother passed away, and Ivy has had a hard life because she grew up with a sister who is the chosen one. I don't like to use that trope just because they use that trope in this book in a particular way, and it's not her twin sister, and I think it's so well done, but I will go into that in a little bit. But her sister's the chosen one, basically, who gets to go learn magic and gets to do all of that stuff. She would be your Harry Potter. Ivy, however, is, or more accurately, Tabitha would be Lily Potter, because Ivy is basically Petunia Dursley, who drank a lot of whiskey and is now a private investigator. And not like anything like a supernatural private investigator. She fully acknowledges and knows that magic exists because her sister's not in her life, but she knows why. But Ivy doesn't deal with supernatural stuff, doesn't do magic, doesn't understand magic because she didn't go to school for it. She knows her sister can do it, but they're estranged. Her mother died when they were younger, and she resents her sister for not using magic to try and save her mom, and she wasn't even there for her mom when her mom passed away. Her dad has grieved and moved on in his own way and has, I think it's a new wife or it might be a girlfriend, I can't remember. It's not really like particular to the story. And I may have personal things that I relate so much to Ivy on that I will discuss. But the story is that the librarian, which that kind of drew me in, but the librarian at the magic school is found dead. And it is particularly gory and gruesome. I'm not going to describe it here because I do think you kind of need to go into it getting the full picture. But the librarian is found dead. The magic police basically rule it a death by accident. Like she tried to do a spell she wasn't capable of doing and died because of it. The headmistress doesn't believe that that's true. And you get more character background on the librarian to see why she thinks it's true. And she hires Ivy. And Ivy gets thrust again into this world with her sister, who she's estranged from. And the magic and the thriller part of the story, they're the plot driving action, but really what the book is about family and what it means to you and estrangement. At least it was for me. So let me give a little backstory. My mom actually passed away from cancer June of 2018, so it's been little over a year now. And my family hasn't fallen apart necessarily, but I related so much to Ivy because I always felt growing up that like my brother was the chosen one in the family, and how do you exist in a world where the person that was your person in your family is gone? It's been something that I've been going through the process of, and grief is it's an interesting thing. Like I'm at a place now where I can talk about it openly on camera, but grief is such a like all-consuming thing, and it strikes you at weird moments. And this book did it so well. Like, I don't know if Sarah Gailey has experienced this kind of loss before or experienced this kind of family life before, but she wrote about it. I'm sorry, her pronouns are they and I'm sorry, their pronouns are they and them, so I should refer to them as that. But they wrote about it so well that I think that they've experienced it in some manner. But so I don't know if it's my backstory that made me relate to Ivy so well, or if it was Sarah's writing, but I definitely think that if you've kind of experienced what I've experienced, or if you've had grief and you understand it, or even if you just have a weird family life and like you have this kind of weird, estranged brother sister thing, which I should mention, I'm not estranged from my brother. It's just we have a weird relationship. It's not like what you read in books or see in movies. So again, that kind of made me really enjoy the book even further, because it was like, oh, someone gets it, and someone wrote it in book form. And um, what I liked about this book, I guess I'm going to start with that. Besides my backstory and all of that, just what I liked about this book is that the magic system was interesting in that it had a basis, and you could tell that Gailey was going for something different enough that you knew that this world was a particular world of magic, but not so different that you couldn't recognize that this was magic. Like there are laws in this magic world. There are theories. There are like sciences basically where they study it, and I think it was a great like base layer of it. I felt like I wanted to know more, but I was given enough. And I think that that's really important, especially for a book that's not very big. I mean, I think it was 330 some odd pages, but especially for a book that's not as big as something like, Eye of the World or Game of Thrones type of book, where you get this like backlog of information about how the magic system and everything works in those worlds. I thought this book did that especially well for keeping you enticed with the magic in it and how they use it and what it meant to be a student at this school, which, let's talk about that. Okay, so one of my favorite series of all time is the Magician series by Lev Grossman. It is your Portal World / Hogwarts / everything. Oh, it's a pure perfection series is what I like to call it, where it's just everything just hits you so well. And I like books like that, where they take systems like Portal Worlds or magic systems or magic schools, and they like tell the story as to what we right now in 2019, how we would experience it. And Sarah Gailey does a very good job of that. It is high schoolers today, how they would experience magic school. There's LGBT representation, but it's so nonchalant. It's just like, oh yeah, they're pansexual, or she's a lesbian, or, there's teen pregnancy, there's abortions. Things are talked about like they actually happen and not this like fictionalized world. And it was so refreshing. It was just refreshing to read. And that's why I related to The Magicians so well, because I always felt like The Magicians maybe doesn't hold up to that standard of 2019, but it does hold up to the standard of what would Hogwarts be like in today's society, where they're not walking around wearing robes and doing stuff like that. It's real, it's gritty, it's raw, it's what actually happens in the real world. And the school in this book does the exact same thing, and I loved it. I love books that kind of take a trope or a genre and just kind of flip it on its head a little bit. Not even just a slight rotation, just like, okay, well, let's look at it from this perspective. What would happen if you had the mean girl at school who can do magic? Well, she's going to graffiti something on your lockers that, oh wait, they can't figure out how to remove, and it burns your hand if you try to do it. Like, that's something that would actually happen. Or like, they're using basic illusion spells to make them prettier and more popular and entice you. And I thought that was so interesting. And going back to the magic system, like just the fact that there's theoretical magic, things that they think about, like, oh, what would happen if we do this? And the way that they describe it is very like it. I think what I liked is how Tabitha discusses magic is like a theoretical scientist. Very like, that they're very, very intelligent and very, very good at what they do. But if like I were to go up to like Stephen Hawking, I would not understand anything that he told me. And that's what Tabitha's role is in this story. And so as a reader, you're getting into this story through Ivy's perspective, and I think Sarah Gailey chose that specifically because it makes you not trust anything that anybody's doing. And Ivy's not a reliable narrator. She gets drunk a lot. She has an alcohol problem in this story, and that's a very like stereotype PI type of characteristic. But I liked that because you go into this book thinking it's going to be, you know, noir movie set in the magic world, and it isn't. It's just an interesting dynamic in this story. And again, it's very hard to keep this spoilery free because there's so many things that I just want to talk about with you guys that are done so well in this book. Without giving anything away, like there's sex in this book, there's dating, there's lesbians, there's pansexuals. It's a nice intro book to a series if she wants to make it a series. If they want to make it a series. But at the same time, like this is a good one-off book. If Gailey decides to go an entirely different direction in the next book that they write, I would be kind of sad because I want more of Ivy and Tabitha's story. But I understand why they wouldn't do that. And one thing that I thought was really well done as well was that you have suspects in this book, and Gailey does a really good job of throwing red herrings that aren't necessarily red herrings. So, and what I mean by that is they put things in the story like there's probably 3 or 4 people that you suspect by about the middle of the book that have committed this murder. And what Gailey does is give you reasons why they didn't, give you reasons why they did, and then I'm usually really good at figuring out books about halfway through. Like, I'll keep reading the book because I want to see how they get there. Liane Moriarty is a very, very good example of that. I'll figure those out, but I really am enjoying the ride, and that's okay. This book, I was enjoying the ride, but it would be like every 3 or 4 chapters, I'd get flipped on my head because all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, that's not what's happening. There's one particular scene, which if I do a spoiler section, I will talk about at the very end, that I think maybe needed to be tweaked because it was a little too in your face. And I think that's an editor person's job to maybe have caught that. But I just love this book, guys. Like, there's so many things I want to talk about. I thought that the whodunit was really well done. Like, it was one of the people that I suspected, but not for the reason that I suspected, and not for the gut-wrenching reason that I suspected. And there's a really fun side plot of a chosen one being one of the students, and how that kind of gets flipped around. There's the subplots of people using spells that they shouldn't be able to use because they're not only illegal, they're impossible. There's dating subplot, and there's a lot of stuff that gets left open-ended that I think probably a second book will be coming out. I don't know what it would be, but I would be interested in it. And the ending, it's tied up, but not really. Like, I don't know that I would call this a happy ending book, other than I think Ivy does kind of come to some sort of, I don't even know if I want to call realization, but maybe some sort of like fulfillment and closure of the grief that she is feeling over her mother's death. And Ivy is not like 18 in this book. Ivy's been grieving for a very long time, and she's very, very angry at her family for what she feels like is basically being abandoned. And I think that that's really what the book is about, is her walking through these steps of dealing with some of this and dealing with this anger. And girlfriend needed some therapy, like hardcore therapy. That's yeah, she needed to stay away from the whiskey and maybe find a therapist and talk to them, which she's in the Bay Area. I'm pretty confident they're probably worth some. But yeah, this book is great. I think I'm going to talk spoilers now. So if you don't want to listen to spoilers, if you don't want it ruined, if this book sounds even remotely interesting to you, please, please, please go out and get a copy of this from your library or purchase it. It is so good. It is 330 pages. It's a really fast read. I couldn't put it down. I devoured it in a full day, like maybe over the span of 3 hours. I do read fast, but like I could not put it down once I started it. And I'm going to talk about some spoilers now, so please turn off this video if you have any interest in reading this book, because I don't want to spoil you on it. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Please do that. I'll see you all later at the next video, but now I'm going to talk spoilers. Okay. So, Magic for Liars. Guys. Can we talk about Alexandria and Dylan? I knew from the get-go that Dylan was not actually going to be the chosen one. It was going to be his sister. But I found it so interesting that Alexandria is definitely the chosen one, but Tabitha's the one who committed the murder. Tabitha's the one who's doing the impossible thing. But Alexandria also does an impossible thing and nobody really talks about it. She put Dylan back together. Like, she had the total ability to do this. So, and then I've been thinking about this because I finished this book 2 days ago and I've been thinking about this ever since. So the prophecy is that the chosen one will change how magic is done, but it's not really coming true because Tabitha's actually the one who changed how magic was going to be done because she did the impossible thing of taking apart the librarian. And I can't remember her name right now. I think her name is Sylvia? Sarah? Something with an S. But she takes her apart to get the cancer out, and I don't know. But it leaves me wondering so many things, and I don't love that Tabitha gets away with it. I don't love how Tabitha is very manipulative of Ivy, even after the fact that Ivy has told her, I'm angry at you because you didn't save our mother. And I don't like how that was glanced over. I don't think all the spoilers are going to be things that I don't like. I promise that they aren't. But I don't like that was glanced over because Ivy was truly angry with her sister, and her sister continued to just manipulate it. Which, I mean, now that I think about it, and I'm just now coming to this realization with this video, but now that I think about it, there are signs all throughout even the past history of Ivy and Tabitha that Tabitha is not a good person. She's not a pure chosen one good person, and I do like that Sarah Gailey wrote it like that, because she is shitty to Ivy as a teenager. She's a teenager when she gets this magic, and she's a shitty human being, and she loved this librarian lady, and I'm just going to call her Sylvia. I can't for the life of me remember her name, but I'm going to call her Sylvia, so if I'm wrong, just insert the correct name, whatever I'm talking about. But she loved Sylvia, and she wanted to be with her, and it was almost like comeuppance for not going home for the mother that Sylvia got the cancer and it spread all over her. And I don't know how I feel about Tabitha as a whole. Like, this book just kind of shook me just because of my history with it and all my backstory and dealing with my own family and dealing with my own grief and my own problems and trying to learn all of that. This book, I don't think it's meant to, but it did kind of cut me to the core just a little bit. Because Tabitha is just such an interesting person, because I don't think she means to be a shitty human being, but I think she just is, and she just also happens to have magic. And I think the same is for Ivy. Ivy doesn't have magic. That's not what makes her shitty, but she is shitty because she's not dealing with her grief, and she feels abandoned and alone, and I don't blame her for feeling that way, because her sister got to be the person that got to do magic and didn't have to deal with the fallout after her mom was gone because her sister didn't come home. And it's just a very interesting look at that side of grief and how you deal with that and the family repercussions. Kind of changing hand here. I thought the magic of, like, how they heal was so phenomenal and not something that I've read before. And granted, I haven't read a ton of, like, super magic-filled books. I have read my share because I think a lot of teens go through that kind of fantasy thing, and I definitely did. But I just thought it was so interesting, like the very first scene where Mrs. Webb is healing her shoulder, and how that they do that. They basically explode your body apart and take out the injury. That's so cool. Like, this is a book I would love to see turned into, like, an HBO miniseries. Like 5 or 6 episodes, just to see it have a really good budget and a really good, like, well done, like, just kind of magician style show. Like, I know The Magicians is out there, but that has its own specific story, and boy howdy has it veered off from where the books are. But I like it just the same, but man, but I think that this would be a great one-off series for HBO or Stars or somebody to pick up and just do a really well done job, especially with just how meticulous Gailey is and explain the details of the gory things and all of that. I think I want so much more. That is the one thing I would say that almost made me lower my star rating is because I want so much more. But I think that's also a sign of a good book. Excuse me. But I cannot highly recommend this book enough. Yes, I have a backstory that made it much more relatable to me, but I gave it 5 stars for a reason, and I think that it's definitely worth a read. So I've kind of expressed everything that I have to express. This is like probably going to be the longest video I've ever done. Hopefully I'll do more reviews in the future. I'm trying to get better at it because I want to get better at it. Because I just think that that's a great way to let authors know how you feel about books and let publishers know what you're looking for. So that is it for my video today. I know it kind of didn't run really like linear, but I'm just trying to get it all out there. I've been thinking about this book for 2 days. I cannot wait to get my own copy because it was amazing. So if you stuck around for this long, thank you so much for sticking around. If you've read this book, please hit me up. Like, comment down below. We will discuss the crap out of this book. I need to talk to some people about this book because it's awesome. And, you know, if you've gone through some of the things similar that I've gone through and you want to talk about it, hit me up down below too because I'll talk to you about that as well. And that is it for today. Thank you again for subscribing. Thank you again for commenting and liking. Please do it on this video, and I will see you guys for the next video. Thank you. Bye.